Hello and welcome back to the Stationary Dev. Today we are kicking off a new series that I'm calling Lesser Known Papers. So using fountain pens usually requires a good type of paper that will hold up to whatever ink or nib you're using. We all know about the staples like Tomoe River, Rhodia, Cosmo Air Light, things like that, but there are so many other papers out there to enjoy that are great for fountain pens and meant for writing with fountain pens. So today we're going to be taking a look at this Life brand L writing paper pad. So this is writing paper. Specifically, the brand name or the brand name is Life, and then the type of paper is their L writing paper. They make other kinds of fountain pen papers, but this is their L writing paper that they use mainly for, like, I think it's mainly for writing letters or things like that, because this is a glue bound pad. So this one comes in pads. They also, like I said, have notebooks. So for journaling and stuff, they have Noble Note is their notebook series. But for their letter writing papers, they have these glue bound pads. Now, obviously it's Japanese. So it comes in this pad, kind of similar to like a Rhodia. So it has like the sort of cardboardy back there, nothing exciting on the back, and then this sort of cardboard cardstock cover. It says what's inside, so it says the color is white. Although if we compare it to something like a Rhodia pad, you'll see that it's actually more of a cream colored paper. So here's a Rhodia pad, and comparing it, you can see it's definitely more of a cream colored paper. The size here, I believe, is given in millimeters, but it's a B5 tab pad, so it's a little bit bigger than an A5 notebook or pad or something, so it's a good size for letter writing. I think it gives you plenty of space for that. This one is 70 sheet glue bound pad, and the ruling is horizontal lines, which I'm usually not a lined guy, but for letter writing, I don't mind it at all. And the lines are only on one side of the paper, so there's nothing on the back side of the paper there. It's only on the front is the lines, but you can still, if you want to use the back, you can still see the lines on the back of the paper there. Interestingly, this paper has a watermark, so it's glue bound. The pages come off really easily, like that. Super easy, super clean edge. Nothing's tearing or ripping or hard to come off. But I don't know if you can see already, but there is a watermark. So there are mainly vertical lines and then a couple horizontal lines on the page. So I'm going to try to zoom in so you can maybe see that, and you can start seeing some of the horizontal lines there. And if I go up closer, you can maybe start seeing some of the vertical lines. And let me shine a light behind it and see if that helps as well. Maybe, maybe not. There you go. You can kind of start seeing the vertical lines there. It's not ideal, but if you do hold it up to the light or just pick it up off the paper, you can see the watermark in it, which is kind of nice for a paper, just to have that watermark in it. All right, and I found it to be great letter writing paper. Obviously, you can use it for anything, but this is primarily for letter writing paper. And like I mentioned, they do have the Noble Notes, which are also good paper, which I might do a video in this series on, is the Noble Note notebook paper. But, you know, they're in a notebook format, so they're maybe better for journaling or something like that, if you want something a little more permanent. So to test out these papers, I figured we would do some ink swatches and then also do a quick writing test with a couple pens, like a finer nibbed pen and then a wider pen, just to see how the paper works, how it feels with the pens, and then how it reacts with different inks that have different ink qualities. So let me zoom in here and we will do our first rounds of tests. So first I'm going to do swabs of ink with 4 different styles of ink. One is going to be a sheening ink, another is going to be a shading ink, another one's going to be like just a basic, straight up ink, and then the last one is going to be like a terrible ink that usually tears up papers. So we're going to see what happens with those. So let me get some cotton swabs. And the first one we're going to do is our sheening ink. So for our sheening ink, I've decided to go for California Teal. It's a lovely sort of green. It's more green to me than a teal, but a green with lots of red sheen. So we're going to see how it works out on these papers. And I'm just going to turn this to the side so you can see it maybe a little bit better. And try not to get ink all over the place. This could end in disaster, especially with one of the inks coming up. So let's get a good swab. Lay down some ink. So there's like an initial down, and then we're going to do a more saturated version. There. So there's our sheening ink. With California Teal. Next up for our shading ink, I'm going to use Tobacco Sunburst. Number one, because it's probably my favorite ink ever. And number two, because it is a gorgeous shader of an ink. So, next up is our shading ink. Tobacco Sunburst. Oop, get out of there. Let's get a good swab of it. This one I'm kind of going to do maybe a longer swab so we can see the variance of colors. Maybe just a little bit there. Good enough for me. I think browns are great shaders, like brown inks are usually pretty great shaders. Our basic ink, I couldn't come up with anything more basic than just the old Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black. I was going to do the blue, but I have another blue coming up for a different section. So we're going to use the black for this one. Just as basic of an ink as you can probably find. All right. Good black ink, and it's not like a super dark black ink. It usually dries to more of a kind of lighter gray, but good for our purposes. And then the last I'm going to have to take extra precaution with. It's an ink that I absolutely hate. Some people absolutely love it. But for our terrible ink, our paper rending ink is going to be none other than the Noodler's Baystate Blue. So I'm going to try not to make permanent stains on everything that I own here, and put down some Baystate Blue on this paper just to see how it works. And I'm keeping this bottle in a bowl just so it doesn't get absolutely everywhere. It is a pretty color, I will say that. But good for papers or pens? No. Not at all. All right. And we'll see how those dry. While we're waiting for them to dry, though, I'll go ahead and label each one of these real quick, and then we'll do our fountain pen writing sample. So this is Monteverde. And then don't worry about my handwriting. This is writing around a tripod, not with the fountain pen, and really quickly. And this is Pelikan. That's the one Brilliant Black. Quite a flattering name. And then finally the old Noodler's Baystate Blue. All right. So while we're continuing to let those dry, as you can see, the right side of most of these are already all dry, so we're just waiting on the darker sections to dry. I'm going to do some writing samples. So for a finer nib pen, I don't think it gets much finer than an ultra extra fine from Platinum. So that's what I'm going to be using for our fine nibbed pen. So I'll just put like extra fine writing, and we'll do the 5 Boxing Wizards. I got a little hair in the nib there, so don't mind that sort of super bold spot there. It's the curse of fine pens, fine nib pens. And then for my broader one, this one's a pretty broad. It's a medium, but it writes pretty broad, and it's my Pilot Custom 74 and a medium nib. And in it, I have SBRE brown. I had Rohrer and Klingner Kastanienbraun in that extra fine. Before I'll do medium writing. I'll do some scribbles there, and I'll do a couple more scribbles up at the top. Now for the writing experience, it is a very smooth paper. Like even though it has like the watermark and stuff, you don't feel it at all. It's very smooth paper. It's not like super thick or draggy like Cosmo Air Light is sometimes. Just a nice paper. Go back and see if we can get a good look at some of that writing there. There you have it. 5 Boxing Wizards, jump quickly. So, and in terms of like the line, I don't think it spreads out any. If anything else, it's a little more compact of a line. I think this paper is a little bit thirstier, so it might soak up a little bit more. We'll see when we flip it over on the other side. But and also it doesn't have, some of the lines are a little fuzzy, but I don't think it's not feathering, but it's just a little fuzzy. Not like super sharp line like you get with something like Tomoe River paper or anything. There. So that is our writing sample. And my zoom is going crazy. We're still waiting for these ones to dry, but I can go ahead and flip it over to the other side. I will. And wow, you can see it actually holds up really well to the inks. So even Baystate blue, laid on pretty heavily, doesn't come through this paper at all. Like there is no bleed through. Our super sheener isn't coming through is it coming through at all? There's no bleed at all. And the writing sample, absolutely no bleed, and actually minimum show through too. It's not really showing through. You can just kind of see the imprints, and you can mainly just see the water lines. You can see it maybe a little bit, but absolutely holds up to ink. Like you're not going to have any problems. Even I guess if you're writing with Baystate blue, I don't think you're going to have many problems. Now, given those aren't the like wettest or broadest pens I have, but still. And as far as our inks go, you can see our sheener there is sheening. Mainly it's sheening around the outside. You can see all around the outside there, so you are getting sheen from your sheening ink. We are getting lots of shading from our shading ink, our Tobacco Sunburst, which is just a great ink. Look at all of that. Just the difference of colors going from the, the super sort of yellowy brown there, getting darker and murkier the heavier it goes on. Lots of shading with that ink. It's a beautiful ink. Our Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown Brilliant Black is just a black ink. It's on there. It's doing its job. Going down just slightly gray, as you can see, and there's a little black sheen on it actually, interestingly enough, on this paper. When it goes down heavy, there's a little bit of black sheen. You can see around the edges there. And then Baystate blue is Baystate blue. It is just blue. Maybe a tiny bit of sheen there, but I wouldn't count on it. But there is just a little bit of sheen on this paper. You can kind of see it there. So there we have it. That is our Life brand L writing paper. Holds up to ink incredibly well. Very smooth. Once again, nothing is coming through on that page at all, even on our super swabs. Holds up to ink incredibly well. Super smooth. It'll show whatever quality of ink you're using. So if you're using a sheener, it shows the sheen really well. You can see that. If you're using a shader, of course it's going to shade. You can see some of the shading a little bit in that SBRE brown with just my medium nib. You can see the shading there. For whatever reason, my focus isn't liking to work today, but there, it's good for extra fines and good for mediums. So broader nibs are good. Extra fines, there's not, super ton of feedback or anything like that. Like I said, it's super smooth, so your pen's not catching on anything. Good all around paper. It goes for around $14. This specific, 70-page pad? Yeah, 70-page pad goes for around $14, but you can find it for less. And you can find it on Amazon, JetPens, whatever website you want. They have the L brand paper. So it's available. It's cheap enough. Like I said, they have 30-page versions and lesser things if you want something a little cheaper and a different size. But yeah, great all around. The drying might be, I think the drying is pretty good. The only thing that's still wet is the Pelikan 4001, which I actually put down really wet on theirs, which is why we're getting sheen out of a black ink, that black ink specifically. But I think it dries pretty well. I didn't have any smearing or any problems on my handwriting. So all around, I definitely highly rate and recommend this paper. If you have not tried out Life writing paper and you want to try something new besides Tomoe River or Cosmo or Light, or you're trying to find an alternative, maybe even a cheaper alternative to those papers, check out the L writing paper from Life. That is all I have for today. Make sure to, if you want to, you can leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite lesser known fountain pen paper is, or a paper that you want me to try next with my fountain pen paper test. If you want me to try a paper, just leave it in a comment and I might have it on hand, or I can purchase it and try it out for you. Make sure if you like this video and want to see others like it, you leave a like and subscribe. It's a free and easy way to help out the channel and see more fountain pen videos, paper videos, ink reviews, anything like that. So that is all for today, and until next time, see you later.